requirement provided for the open public meeting law has been satisfied. Notice was properly given, and said notice having been transmitted to the Courier News and the Star Ledger on Friday, April 6, 2018, as well as posting on the bulletin board in City Hall. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Scott.
Present.
Hockaday, absent on roll call. Stewart.
Here.
Tolliver. Here. Williams, absent on roll call. Vice President Mills Ransom, absent on roll call. Council President Craig.
Here.
We have one.
Okay, tonight we're going to be listening to Administration and Finance. As usual, if you have your cell phones, please turn them off or put them on silence. If you have to take a call, please step out the room to answer any calls. Mr. West.
Good evening, Council, and members of CBEC, and the public at large. I will be covering Administration and Finance this evening, and I guess answering other questions that may surface. I'll begin tonight by just giving you some sense of the goals and objectives that are being focused on, at the high level of Administration and Finance, and then I will deviate from time to time as we go through the departments. But one of the important areas that we're focused on is a tax collection rate of at least 97%. And that has a major impact on how much of a reserve fund of collected taxes we have to have, which then it impacts the tax rate. So our highest has been 97.08%. We would love to get back there or exceed it. It's also important that we regenerate surplus of at least $6 million. In the budget, you'll see that we've been contributing between $6.4 $6.7 million to the budget. And we will need to continue to do that or find other sources of revenue. Otherwise we've got a gap of $6.4 million, $6.7 million, which we don't think the taxpayers would want us to pass on to them. We want to pay a lot of attention to audit findings. Our audit will begin very soon. We're down to one audit finding from last year. We'd like to stay in that area. We're also in the throes of replacing some of the technology infrastructure we have here. So you'll see that there was a quote by me that we were going to replace 18 devices. But that's about to begin. We're testing that as we speak, and that's just to replace some units that are better than 7 years old. And so we're looking to go with equipment that's certainly newer and comes with free maintenance going forward. We're also in the throes of testing what's known as a virtual desktop strategy, where even the desktop software, is located away from the city. We've done that with regard to our servers in 2017. Now we're looking at desktops to see if that's a viable way for us to move forward. And then we'd be moving all of our Word software and other applications, off to the cloud. A number of us are working on a cleanup of the 2020 census database. For those of you who haven't thought about it, the census is coming up on us fairly quickly. And it's still the goal of the city to be able to show that we have, better than 50,000 people here in Plainfield. So there are a number of us working at cleaning up the census database, with one of the key things being for multi-unit residences and apartment dwellings to be able to show that they have 18 units, 20 units, 50 units, or whatever the case is, so that the census folks, when they come out, will know that there should be 18 apartments here with X number of people living in them. So that's underway. It's certainly our plan to hire a minimum of 150 youth and young adults this summer to make the city website ADA compliant, so that those that are either hearing or visually impaired will have the ability to have access to the city's website. We are planning to invest $3.5 million in capital for infrastructure and other improvements, with $1.5 million of that being attributed solely to roads. We will be soon looking at health benefit alternatives again, because that's one of the biggest cost items we have. Midsummer we'll have to go back out to the street and see where we stand with regard to the competitive marketplace, and whether we remain with Aetna or migrate somewhere else. We're also looking at what are known as 457B or deferred compensation plans. We happen to have two here in the city, one provided by Nationwide, the other one by MetLife. And one of the challenges there is that we need to pay more attention to it and make sure that the investment options that we've selected over the years are indeed working for the employees and taking the appropriate steps should there be funds that aren't delivering. So you'll hear more about that in the upcoming months, but it is something we're looking at because we think we need to get a partner to help us take a look and make sure that we are best of breed when it comes to deferred compensation plans. There's still a need to improve our IT skills and customer service. You've heard in a few of the other sessions that there's a major emphasis on customer service. We need to do that, and one of the biggest groups that's visible to the employee body and even to others is our IT and media staff. So we want to make sure that there's a focus. So we've had at least one training session with the managers a few weeks ago, and there are upcoming sessions being scheduled as well. You've heard before about Mitchell Humphrey. We are certainly pushing to have that completed this year. In terms of all the other groups that need to come up on it. So we're pushing hard to get that done. The key link to that is getting planning up and running, and that's scheduled in the next month and a half. And once that's behind us, we expect to go into high speed to get the other groups that are in the first wave of Mitchell Humphrey. The other thing that we're looking at is the need to digitize lots of paper. We've got offices interested in recovering space. And if you go across the street to the annex and explore other nooks and crannies throughout the city, you'll find file cabinets and lots of paper. And some of those records are important. So we're looking at different options to figure out what we can do to digitize those kinds of things, whether they're the clerk's records or anyone else's, but that requires an investment. So we're going to do some piloting, so I think tomorrow we've got a session to look at some options. But after that, we're going to be looking at what we need to do with regard to helping to reduce the amount of paper and also give us more document and content management control so that we can throw out those things that are now past the retention deadlines. So that's something that I'll be working very closely with the clerk on. So now I'm talking about the budgets. I guess we should start by doing mine first. Administration and Finance. And you're going to see that salary and wages for Administration and Finance, are the salaries are $303,962, which is a 13.57% decrease over the prior year. OE, you'll see, the requested amount is $276,500, which is a significant increase over what's been done in prior years. And so to explain what makes a lot of that up, you're looking at the two key budget lines. The first being outside consultants, and the second one, is program community initiatives. And most of that can be attributed to, the Nantech of Plainfield initiative that's underway. A number of you have been to New Covenant and have seen the fact that we've got a 12-unit classroom. And to date, we've been holding digital literacy courses for better than 30 people here in the city. The plan is to expand that and become a Cisco Academy. So we've taken initial steps to become a Cisco Academy, and I'm in conversations with the Board of Ed, Union County College, and the library, with the vision being that the library has the ability to provide classes if people want to come in, sit at the terminal, and go online. So the intent is for them to do the precursor courses so that people can get familiar, because it's the intent of the city then to turn around and offer Cisco CCENT and CCNA classes. And they take a lot more skill and capability, and we want to ensure that people have a reasonable chance to pass those courses. And so there's $175,000 of that number associated with that. The instructors are alone now is $137,000. So Cisco instructors are expensive. You know, we've been using the facility down the street for free. We don't pay any rent, you know, or any contribution to lighting and anything else. So there's money in there to do that. You know, we're also going to need, if we expand the program, we're going to need somebody else to help us oversee, you know, some of the administration. You know, and sign-ups and just keeping the facility open more than it is today. You know, because people will have a need to go to the labs. You know, another piece of that is I've got proposals from the library, for the library to be a player in this, you know, particularly around the Cisco pieces, and will require that they do some floor work, some remediation, and again, instructors. Instructors are where the cost really is. And so that's the bulk of that increase. The other thing that we're in the throes of doing is rabies and implant clinics. 4 rabies clinics, 4 implant clinics around the city of Plainfield, you know, with the ultimate goal being to not only get those dogs, make sure those dogs are and cats are properly protected, but also to increase our licensing. You know, we're looking to see if we can't get the public to come out. We have 250 dog and cat licenses in the city of Plainfield versus those thousands of animals we know we have. You know, so we're going to see if people are interested in getting their animals implanted. The rabies will be free. The implant will cost in the area of $10, you know, for those people that come out. So, but we're going to have to pay for, you know, the veterinarian and staff that will be showing up to support that initiative. So, you know, that's the bulk of that initiative. And I talked about the digitizing of paper flow. I've got most of that in capital, but there'll be something that will surface around that. So with that, I will stop talking for a minute and let you ask any questions of administration and finance.
Councilman Tolliver?
Yes. So what was the cost of Mitchell Humphrey?
It's not over. We've spent $200,000 to date.
How much more do you think you'll spend?
We've got budgeted another $50,000.
So I know before when it started, you started with the department heads. How many more employees do you have yet to train?
We've got about 15 employees still to be trained. We've got the Office of the Tax Assessor, Tax Collector. We've got health employees that need to be trained.
You think that'll happen this year?
That's the plan.
Okay. You're requesting $45,000 for $4,500, for supplies, printing, and stationery. Just want to know why is that gone up?
It's gone up because I also purchase goods and supplies for the office of the Chief of Staff / information officer. So anything that the information officer needs, I have the budget for that. There is no standalone budget for that individual.
So this is outside printing, stationery and printing?
This is the purchase of whatever stationery and supplies, you know, that individual will need, as well as whatever I would normally need for office work, whether it's paper, pens. We don't buy a whole lot, but again, that's an
So it
office
includes
that...
in-house stuff as well?
That's correct.
Travel and business, $4,500?
It pays for
How much was it last year?
the actual... give me a second. It was about $3,500 for
Travel, office.
conventions and conference, and $1,477.61 for travel. I can tell you that there's a technology conference planned There's the Association of Black Business Administrators that this individual is scheduled to go to. There's the League of Municipalities and the trip to Washington.
Okay, I don't know which one. I'll go back. Professional training, it was 2,000, so it's 4,000. So you're saying there's additional, am I on the right one? Yes, that's the under
Oh, I
director.
thought we were talking travel, but if we're talking professional training
Yes.
and staff development, it is my intent to make sure that all individuals have adequate tools. I've got an individual scheduled to go to a class in September, to give that individual a better understanding of city government and the importance of that individual's position. And I know that the information officer is going to go to a technology class. So that's the reason, and that wasn't cheap last year, so that's why that's in there.
Okay, back to the stationery and printing of office supplies. It was 500 last year, and it's 4,500. You added on additional.
That's correct. And that had both. I'll call it a department, yes. The office of the chief of staff / public information officer.
So chief of staff wasn't in with this last year?
No, but the public information officer was.
Seems like a lot of money, though. I mean, if you just added in the chief of staff and public information from last year when it was 500, now it's 45 with those two added in?
But that job is to promote the city and push information out. So I would expect that they would have needs in terms of stationery and supplies to get the message out.
It's a big jump, though. That's my opinion. That's a big jump, $4,500 from 500. I'll speak with you about that later in detail because I'm not satisfied with that number. Now I'm down to travel office official reimbursement. It was $1,500 and now it's up to $4,500.
Correct. And I just indicated the various trips, but I'll repeat them.
You repeat them.
The trip to Washington,
Mhm.
the attendance at the Black Municipal Managers meeting, I think that was in Cleveland or somewhere, the Conference of Mayors, and there's a technology conference that office will be attending. And then there's the League of Municipalities.
What new meetings? Is there anything new added on here from last
Yes,
year?
the Conference of Mayors, the Black Municipal Managers meeting, and the technology session, technology training session will be new.
Okay. Now, outside consulting, who are you using? Because in 2017, you got 23,000. You're asking for 92 this year.
All right, so in terms of the who, it's going to be the instructors that we would have to hire for the training, for the Cisco Academy. And they will probably come out of Nantucket, Newark, unless we're able to surface some local individuals who are accredited and certified to teach Cisco.
That's what was going to be my next question. There's no one within the city that's qualified to teach those classes?
I would hope that there are. I am not aware of any right this second.
Have we ran any ads or anything asking for anyone?
All we've done, you go online and there's a whole, Cisco has a listing of every accredited and certified teacher. And right now, I don't see any from Plainfield. But again, that's why we're having conversations with Union County College, the Board of Ed, if we could even get someone who feels that they are adequately trained in Cisco and can pass, then they will be welcome to come to the fold. But you must be accredited for people to be able to take classes that lead to certification in Cisco.
Okay, well, that's something I think we need to work on. It's a lot of money.
Well, that's part of really why we're having those courses too, so that we improve the skills and capabilities of the people in town.
I understand that, and that's appreciated, but it's still a lot of money. Publications, last year you had 9,000, now it's up to 27,000?
That's correct. Those, we did 2 publications, that went to the homes of all residents. And so that's what's in there.
You said that's what's in there, so what brought it up to, I mean, 2 publications raised it up to?
Well, we're expecting, well, when you
more.
increase the yield and the number of pages increase, the price goes up.
Would I be able to see those publications? I don't remember.
I'll go look, because I don't have my copies, but I'll get copies for publications, that were published last year.
So how many copies was published last year versus how many you expect this year?
It's less about the number of copies, it's more about the number of pages and how much information we put out there. That's where your cost is, and then what colors you use and everything else,
So coming up with $27,000, how many pages do you expect, since you can't tell me how many copies, how many pages?
There are going to be thousands of copies. I just haven't, since I don't do it, I didn't commit to memory, whether we're sending it to, we've got 16,000 households. So you can send it to 16,000 households. And they can range anywhere from 4 pages to 8 pages, depends on how much information, we're ready to put out at any point in time.
So you don't foresee coming back to ask for any more money for any more publication this year?
I do not.
Okay. All right, I'll let that do for now. Thank you.
Mr. Hopperman.
Yes, can you reiterate again how you achieve the reduction in the salaries and wages? I know you're requesting less than what the actual was for.
All right, it's very simple. The wages are going down because, the public information officer is also chief of staff. So, my budget is the public information officer. The chief of staff is a separate budget. So it's split across 2 different budget lines.
Okay.
Nothing further.
Mr. Good.
Good evening, Mr. West. How are you?
Just fine.
Good. I only have one question, sir. You said you budgeted for 50,000 for the increase, correct?
50,000 left
50,000 left.
in the budget.
In the
This is the money that was approved 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was the last adjustment, so we're still spending that down.
So what are the odds of you needing more before it's completed? And how much do you think that, just roughly?
I hope to complete the current groups that are planned with the money that's budgeted, the remaining $50,000. I expect that next year that there will be additional training required, and I also expect that we would go back to the first groups that we implemented and revisit their workflows, because there are probably opportunities for improvement. And then we still have the clerk's office that may become a part of this. We've got police and fire that are not a part of the first wave. And again, they would have a different need. They just want to be able to look at the block and lot and get a picture of the property before they go out, as opposed to really having a need to input.
So that 50,000 that's left is practically gone. It's going to be gone.
Oh, it'll be gone by the end, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Mr. Storch.
Good evening. A couple of questions. One about the Cisco Academy. What's the eligibility for a person to participate or enroll?
We're still working on that, and it's less about the eligibility. It's about the commitment of the individual to go to these classes. To get to be a CCNA requires 280 hours of classroom training. About half of that for the CCE&T, and it's intense. We've backed away from doing it 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, hoping that, people will have a better chance of success if we slow it down a little, spread it out more. So we just want people to commit. I haven't figured out whether we want to charge $50, but we want them to put some skin in the game, because then they're more likely to complete the classroom setting, because it's free. So how do we go ahead and impose some kind of fee or commitment, or get a commitment from the individuals to be serious about this and participate. So the intent is to do something, and part of it's going to be even with the library. They're going to have to take certain courses before we will consider them as eligible.
Okay. Did I hear that? Do they have to be residents of the city?
Must be residents.
Okay.
Taxpayers are paying for this.
And do we have like a minimum number of people that would make it worthwhile?
At least 6 per class. Right now, we're only equipped for 12. And there we've got ongoing discussions with other people because there are other things happening in the city that provide more capacity. But more capacity means more instructors, means more money. So we're limping at this with the $175,000 plus the library piece, because that's a whole lot less than what people are telling us they wanted and or needed for the program. So we're trying to figure out how collaboratively Plainfield can come together and help make this happen.
So who are we considering administering the program? Is it going to be the city, or are we asking either the Board of Ed or the county college to do that?
County college is still figuring out what role they can play. I would love for them to have instructors. The Board of Ed, and now I'm offering you a vision. And right this second, this is my vision. Although some things probably happened last night, at the Board of Ed meeting. The target is for the Board of Ed to reinstall the program it had 10, 15 years ago, where they taught all high school students Cisco. And they helped deploy all the technology that's being used by the Board of Ed. So that's going to, I've been given a commitment, that's going to be reintroduced at the high school level. The real goal is to introduce STEM from kindergarten or pre-K on up. That's a bigger initiative. And the school's going to have to figure out how to do that. But it's my hope that the school will become its own academy and put programs in place so that all of the students, whether they go to the school system or not, have access to that kind of technology training. And there's a location where we can get that done in the city.
But that wouldn't be the same kind of program that you're offering through the city.
What we're hoping to do is target those who are unemployed, unqualified, unequipped, or looking for a new career. Many of the people that are taking the classes now are looking for new careers. But the intent is to equip those who are out of school, so to speak, with those tools that they'll need to be able to compete. Because with Cisco certifications, it opens up an immense job market. And by being a Cisco academy, you get access to worldwide opportunities. So that's part of the vision and part of the reason why all the parties are at the table. We can't do the Board of Ed piece, but the Board of Ed is very interested in reintroducing what it did in the past.
Would that be a feeder for this academy?
I would hope that it would be a feeder from an instructor perspective. No, we want it to be a feeder so that when the kids graduate from high school, they are prepared to either go on to college and interested in going on to college or going right into the marketplace because they've got CCNT and CCNA and maybe cybersecurity certifications and they're 18 years old, which means somebody's going to be ready to hire them.
Well, I hope that one of those other entities is interested in being very involved in this, because I hate to see the city always trying to invent a program that's already got expertise elsewhere.
That's correct. And that's why they're at the table. And there are courses taught by Union County College, and they used to be a Cisco academy. So I just, they've got to figure it out. But the intent is to grow the Plainfield campus. So we're working with the Plainfield campus president.
Okay, thanks. One other question. And what's the audit finding that you expect that will still be remaining?
Oh, I hope it doesn't remain, but we had the one last year, which was in purchasing. So we just hope that there are no audit findings, but can we live with one compared to 33? Yeah, we can live with one.
Okay, but I know you're very particular about setting objectives.
Yes.
And what your objective is not more than one audit finding, so you're expecting that we're going to have an audit finding.
No, I had one, and remember, well, you may not know, but at least in purchasing, I'm in the throes of running purchasing and a few other things, so I may not catch everything. But we're doing all that we can to put in processes and procedures so that we can catch things beforehand. But when auditors come in, stuff happens. We hope that we fixed everything along the way, but I don't know. I don't want, perfection is where we're driving.
Well, perfection is not the same thing as no audit finding.
That's correct. Now, if I'm getting perfection out of everybody, I hope that it results in no audit findings.
Well, it sounds like the goal is no audit findings.
If you'd like that, I can make it that.
All right,
But the reality is, we went down from 33. So.
Well, congratulations for that.
That's good.
But I think the goal should, our goal should be no audit.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Councilman Williams?
No questions.
Seaback?
No questions, but just as a piggyback on what Councilman Shorts was saying in exchange with Mr. West, auditors, from my experience in other venues, they get paid to find something. And as much as you're looking to have the drive for perfection, if they don't find something, then they're not considered doing their job properly from their employer's standpoint. So one audit finding or no audit findings, but you go for zero. But if one comes up, it's because they made sure they found something, no matter how minuscule. That's my 2 cents on that.
All right. And I appreciate that.
Mr. Burke?
Couple of questions. You say that some of these were Cisco certified training course classes before they discontinued?
The high school has.
Had.
The high school had.
Why they discontinued?
I can't answer that for you. I would assume it's money.
So I was concerned whether it was money or whether it was qualified students that had the level that they needed to get through that.
I can just tell you, I would say it's money. Most of the tech employees that are hired by either the Board of Ed and or the City of Plainfield went through that high school program.
One other question. In your write-up, you have the recurring surplus of $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? Is that coming back every year? Are you expecting?
You gotta find it every year. No, it doesn't come back. You got to take steps to make it happen. So if you get your tax collection rate up high enough, new revenues, and remember this is about the revenue side of things. So, or you can lower your costs substantially, and that's not where a lot of the gains are made. It's really around new revenue opportunities, and collecting old bills, selling city properties. So we'll be hosting auctions, and so we try to turn over every stone to find revenue opportunities, because we know we have to, resurface or regenerate revenue. Otherwise, a meeting like this won't be very nice, and I will guarantee you there'll be a lot more people in attendance who are losing their jobs.
Do you have a bottoms-up plan of what you expect how you expect to find those surpluses?
The answer is yes. There is a plan,
Okay.
and it gets worked every month.
Okay.
And so, in line with the CFO, there is a definitive thing that's done, and we are very conservative in budgeting and everything else, so that we stand a chance. But we've been at this a while now, so there are no easy things. So it takes a lot more work. So we work very closely with economic development and others, so that the right things get done.
Okay.
No questions, everything's been answered. Well, I was surprised to hear of the number of animals that weren't licensed. That was a big surprise to me. I'm not an animal owner, but could you repeat again what the
250,
Yeah.
which is double what it was 4 years ago.
Yeah. Can you repeat speak to us again what the steps are that you're going to take to?
All right, on that, the plan is in June and July in June to have rabies clinics in every ward. And in July to have implants, so that if a dog gets lost, there's an identifier. But if they were licensed, we wouldn't have that issue because they'd have a tag on it. And we could help them get recovered a lot faster. So I want licenses, but I figure let's try this to see if we can't get owners to come out, bring their animals to these clinics, rabies shots for free versus paying $75, implants for $10 versus paying at least $25. All you have to do is get a license.
It's rough.
Okay, can we move on to purchasing?
Just a quick question, is there an age minimum or maximum for the Cisco Academy? Is there like an age minimum? I know they're probably after high school. Or is there...
No, there isn't. Like I said, if you were to go in a class, you'll see all ages in there. The only observation I can offer you is those over 70 seem to be struggling a little more than those well under 70. But no, at this point we want to make sure that it's open to all. They're going to have, that's why we want to have some qualifier by having them go to the library and take certain courses, and so that for those who get scared off, I don't expect them to come forward. But the other thing that's going to happen is, in order to get the CCNA, you must be able to pass the CCENT. So that's why we're not going to do the 280 hours, consecutively. But you must pass the CCENT to go to CCNA. And you must do those two before you do cybersecurity.
Purchasing.
All right, purchasing, I'll spend a minute to say that, we are now advertising for a purchasing agent. The former one has been out for a while. But one of the things we have as a major initiative is still to complete the purchasing manual, so everybody has a document that helps them understand the right ways of ordering things. The other thing, at least in purchasing, they do have an objective of a zero audit finding. And other than that, we're talking about training initiatives to make sure that people are cross-trained. From a budget perspective, salaries up about $5,000 or 2.67%. And that's really in line with the contractual agreements. OE is nothing to talk about, but again, we will be staffing that position. The ad is now out, and we hope to make significant changes there.
Councilwoman Oliver?
Yeah, just a couple questions. In your goals, you said, number 4, I want to know when will that start? The citywide training for staff.
There have been a few of those, but now I need a purchasing agent to come on to conduct those trainings. So I would expect that in the July timeframe we will do that. And it's not like they haven't had training previously, but we're going to reinforce that again.
Okay. Number 10, you said ensure purchasing best practices. How are you going to carry that out?
I will be completing the manual and conducting the training. After that, what happens is both the CFO and I review purchases, and purchases will be rejected. Everything's got a method to it, and we're going to be holding the department heads accountable.
Okay. Sounds wise. Publications. You're requesting 2,000 versus 2017. I don't see anything.
There should have been definitely public, money spent in publications. That one for purchasing is for citywide use should something come up that's unplanned for in the way of publications. Whether it's at the yard or somewhere else where we've got a group that says they need to get a mailing out, we want to be able to respond to that.
So in 17, 16, 15, none of that ever came up where you needed to get a mailing out? Because there was no money.
No, what I would tell you is that we had funds in other budgets that anticipated that, those needs at the time. The one thing I can tell you that's been happening over the last few years is that we've been putting more information out. And so I don't pretend to be the knower of everything that's going to happen with regard to information that's getting out, but we are putting out far more information than the city's
No,
ever put.
I'm not questioning you about that.
Yes,
But
I'm
questioning
just saying it's
about
there to capture it.
The $2,000 is what's being requested for 18 and 17 and 16. There was nothing
Right.
requested. That's
Right.
what I wanted you to
Right.
answer. No more questions. Thank you.
Mr. Ockenden?
No questions at this time.
Mr. Good?
Mr. West, the citywide training consists of all or just some of the departments?
It would be all of the departments, just some of the employees. The target's going to be those who actually use Edmunds and input the requisitions and generate POs.
And it says one of your goals is to reduce the postage costs for purchase. What are they now?
We've spent well over $50-some odd thousand in postage. No, what the real goal is, and we've gotten it initiated in a number of groups, but it's not 100%, is that you email and or scan the purchase order to the vendor. It speeds up the whole workflow. It doesn't cost us any postage.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Mr. Storch?
No question.
Ms. Williams? Seaback?
So professional staff and development under purchasing, $2,500 you guys request, you guys don't really spend it. So have you considered lowering that?
Well, there are going to be at least 2 organizational changes in there. And so I anticipate a need for them to take the purchasing courses that are available through Rutgers. And we're going to have two changes in the next 4 months.
Mr. Sadiq?
No questions.
Good question.
No questions.
Ms.
The purchasing agent that you're considering for the software that you're considering, who are some of the companies that you're looking at?
Purchasing aid is an individual.
Person, okay.
That's a person. And in fact, what we're looking for is what's known as a qualified purchasing agent,
Okay.
which has a higher level of credentialing.
Question for you on the individuals in each department that have access to this purchasing requisition PO that you spoke of. Do they know what their local department budget is that they work with before they, or as they initiate requests throughout the year?
Put it this way. If they don't know and they try to spend money that's not there, it will be rejected. So, but these budgets, not necessarily all of these big books, but the budgets have been presented to all the divisions. So they know what their budgets are.
But it may not necessarily be the same person initiating the purchase order.
That is correct. That's correct.
Okay. Any questions? Next, Mr. West?
Administrative services, which is basically where all of our charges for goods and services that are purchased for the city, that's what takes place in this organization. And there are 2 things I would just point out. One here is that there is money in the budget for special projects around community initiatives, and you will find that there's a slight increase again in publications here.
Okay. Councilwoman Tolliver?
Publication, back to that again. You're requesting 20,000, last year it was 9,000, Mr. West. What's this large increase for? Come on. I find it to be, I don't count that as a slight increase. 9,000 last year, you're requesting 20 this. What are you proposing publication-wise? It's gonna cost that much money.
I can tell you that there are going to be mailings around 2025, and explore asking the public to come out and participate in that. There are going to be mailings around the citywide initiatives around, I'll use the term safe homes, but we've got this beautification committee that's got all of the different departments. So we're going to be doing far more in this year, asking or reaching out to the public to help participate in keeping a cleaner and healthier city. We've got initiatives around community health, that aren't just going to be around the employees. We're also reaching out to the city, around health initiatives, that are tied to both the Grata Foundation and Robert Wood Johnson. So we're trying to figure out all the steps that we need to take to get the city behind, and when I say the city, I'm talking about all of the residents, behind those things that we think would help us with sustainable change. We had applied to the Bloomberg Foundation for a scholarship. We were not one of the award recipients. So that means a lot of what we want to do going forward in way of initiatives, we've got to be able to pay for ourselves.
My only question, thank you.
Mr. Hockaday?
So postage increased by $8,000. I'm wondering if, the principles we used in prior sections in terms of scanning, using technology could help us keep postage down in other departments.
That's going to be one of the key objectives for the person that comes in. But one of the things we're dealing with as a counterbalance or a counterweight is the fact that there was a 1 cent postage increase too. So we're dealing with that. But I really want to see how much more we can do with faxing and scanning and emailing things to the vendors, because that will result in significant changes. But those are behavioral changes in order to really make that or put that into effect.
Nothing further.
Mr. Good?
No questions.
Mr. Storch?
Yeah, I just want to reinforce what my two colleagues across the table said about postage and publications. I think there are opportunities to decrease. I know that sometimes we do mailings. We could probably combine a bunch of pieces into one mailing if we're going to reduce postage. And I think if we are going to increase the initiatives, that's the one that went up the most, I think, right? No, it's publications. Publications went up the most. That we might, I think for my colleagues that we should consider giving them an increase, but not that much of an increase. Let's see how it goes. And if they come out at the end of the year and they spend all their money, then next year we'll give them more. I think we should think about that kind of approach. That's it.
Councilwoman Williams?
No questions.
Mr. Elton?
No questions.
No questions. No questions.
No questions. No questions.
Next.
Municipal court. One of the key things, because they don't like to talk about money in municipal court, so I can't give them revenue objectives. But one of the things that we're spending a lot of time on, well, two things. We've got a major initiative around moving back the backlog of court cases. We've got a couple of thousand backlog cases that need to move, and so every month we bite into that. While we also deal with the change in the bail reform. So we did bring on a new deputy city administrator to help us with the bail reform law that's now in effect. because staff is heavily involved in working with the judge as he weighs in whether or not someone has to pay bail or not. And remember, the law is basically trying to allow people to go home on their own recognizance. So from a budget perspective, you'll see $84,000 or so in salaries, and that had to do more with, there is a new position from last year, which is deputy, court administrator. But beyond that, we had vacancies throughout the course of the year. So, when I start talking about that difference, I'm comparing to what was actually spent as to what was budgeted. And always up. Other expenses are up 7%. But the biggest change is the addition of a deputy court administrator.
Okay. Councilwoman Tolliver?
Yes. The backlog, what's in place to extradite this?
To extradite what?
The backlog.
Just a big thing is the scheduling and getting the judges, getting the courses, the cases scheduled and people through the system. So we have been, biting into that backlog every month. So it's one thing that the court administrator pays a lot of attention to.
Okay. Will you use any outside help to get the master file retention in order?
We dealing with the court now, or we're dealing with that other subject I talked about? Which is,
No, that was in the goals.
oh, the master file?
Yes.
With their filing, though, they're going to do most of that internally. And if there was to be an outside agent, that would come through the administrative court. We don't get to have a whole lot of say about what goes on, around court documents and even court computers. That's controlled by the administrative court system.
So for now, it's going to be done in-house?
That's correct.
Okay. How often, do you know how often your staff go to training?
Often. In fact, there's oversight provided not only by administration, but at the Elizabeth Courthouse level, there's an administrator there, and they have several times a year, we shut down court, so that they can go to training. But they're required to go to training often, particularly as laws unfold. It's the last major initiative being on the bail reform.
Okay. Tell us something about bank fees that have gone up.
Merchant fees, we take credit cards there.
Charge the person if they use the credit cards. The banks don't allow them.
They don't allow that in the court. Can't do that with the court. Don't think I wouldn't.
All right.
The surcharge.
Oh.
You can't make the user, pay for the use of a credit card. That's a whole other conversation even for when we start taking more credit cards here.
All right, we can do it in other places. All right, that was all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Hopper?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about that increase in bank fees. So you're saying in 2017, 2016, they didn't take credit cards?
No, we did, but now we're doing far more, activity with regard to the credit. Remember, that's on a per transaction basis. So we're busy over there at the court.
Yeah, well, I see it only 7,500 was budgeted last year, and they blew that at 14,517. It's almost like that 11,000 may not be enough based on use.
And we'll watch, and it'll give us a better understanding for what to do going forward.
Nothing further for municipal court.
Mr. Good?
No question.
Mr. Storch?
Yeah, about the housing court, in the previous years, we had some discussions about the no-shows and the all kinds of, many dispositions on the housing, the property code violation. The dispositions were pending all over the place, and I think we have the reputation of, hey, I own this property, but if I don't show up in court, no one's going to do anything about it, because the judge is just going to keep rescheduling. So how does that affect what you were talking about before about
Oh,
the backlog?
it would, well, it's worse than that. What happens is in many of those cases, the case can get dismissed. So I can tell you, and I'm not directly involved, but there is a team that has been meeting with the judge and others for guidance on how to be better prepared in going forward to municipal court with the housing cases, so that our yield, improves in terms of convictions, as opposed to being thrown out.
I know our corporation counsel doesn't like council members talking directly to the judge, but because of the separation of powers. But if we have input on this situation, are there staff members on the team that you could tell us that we could contact?
I would tell you that the Director of Public Works and Urban Development has the bulk of the people who are appearing in court.
Okay.
And I know that he's involved in some of the conversations that are taking place today, with regard to how to improve our success rate and preparedness in going to housing court.
Okay. That's it.
Councilman Williams?
Just one question. In the goals and objectives, reduce the tickets issued but not assigned from 1,926 to 100 or less, no later than June. Can you just give some clarification on that?
I could probably look to our colleague behind you to give a better answer, but there are ticket books issued to everyone. And this is all about whether or not those ticket books are being utilized properly. I mean, if something comes back that's not signed, it's not any good. And you want to make sure that those ticket books are being used. So there is a register kept on every book that people have, and the fact that they need to be turning them back in. But more importantly, they should be using them.
So that's one of these enforcement sorts of things?
That is correct. This is now from the court, to public safety, to get that done.
It just seems, since we're in April, that to go from nearly 2,000 to 100 or less might be
Remember,
daunting.
she's been working on this prior to this process.
Thank you, that's it.
See that? No questions. Mr. Elamine?
The only question or comment I have with respect to the bank fees is based on the progressive increase, and you're attributing that to credit card fees, that 11,800 is not going to be enough. That it's probably going to be closer to 14 or 18,000 based upon this progression, as opposed to spending and then overspending the line and having to transfer later. And it's rare for me to say something like more money.
Mr. Burton?
Just one question, are those fees negotiable? Can you shop around to another bank to get lower fees or another vendor for credit
Remember,
cards?
we're talking about the cards more than anything else, and MasterCard, doesn't care about me, be glad it's not American Express, which is 4 or 5%. So, we're the city of Plainfield. Maybe Newark can, but the rules are the same. And you can go out to bid, but you're not going to find a whole lot of changes being offered to us in the way of fees. The only option we have, and it doesn't hold for the court, is whether or not you administer a surcharge to the user. Now, we may do that in other places, just not in the courthouse. It's against the law.
Can you give a discount for cash?
I don't plan on giving discounts for much of anything. We don't take cash readily, and usually only in the tax collector's office, although we'll take it at the court too. But cash is something people are frightened of handling around here.
Next, audit and control.
Audit and control. salaries are up 4.33%. Most of that is attributable, again, to the mandatory increases, and we have steps. And you'll see that there's a fairly significant increase in our other expenses in the area of around $46,000. $30,000 of that is attributable to the end of our deal with the Investors Bank. We negotiated an agreement several years ago where they provided a number of services for our business. We were getting free armored car pickup from people going around in police cars to make deposits. They were paying for our payroll cost. And that's what's gone away. We now pay the bulk of our payroll cost. So every check that gets processed has a fee. So that's what you're seeing here. And so we are now paying the bulk of our payroll cost as opposed to none of it. And that's been happening over the course of a few years.
Councilwoman Tolliver?
Just one question. I'm looking at the, can you explain the increase for the CFO's salary?
I guess the only thing I can tell you is that's the increased.
It looked like it went up substantially, more so than what I'm looking at the other folks. I know
That would be a true statement.
I know he's the CFO, but I was just wondering
That's
why.
that's a true statement. And you want to know the why? The reality is, when you have these budget books, you can see what the prior CFO was making. And he's earned every dollar, so that's what it is.
So he's slowly trying to get up to what he wants to make, or what you're trying to get him up to what the other CFO made?
No, I'm just saying that all of this there's nothing hidden here. And the history of budgets, is readily available, so all you have to do is look, and you can see what your predecessor made.
I understand that, but it just seems like it's a high height to me. Maybe I'm misinformed, but that's my personal opinion. That it looks like it's he may deserve it, but it just looks like it's a higher percentage than what I would have expected. Thank you.
Mr. Hockaday?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Wood?
Me.
Mr. Stewart?
Just an observation that in the nonprofit world, which generally pays less than government, those CFO salaries for smaller budget-sized organizations are around that amount. So to me, this is well within reason when you compare it to nonprofits. It's probably a bit low, actually.
Councilwoman Williams?
I actually just have one question. And it's really out of just curiosity. In the overtime, what was requested was $2,002, and what the administration recommends is $2,005. So what's with the $3?
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. In fact, our real goal is not to spend a whole lot of overtime, but if the need arises, we would do that.
It just looks like okay, all right. Thought maybe it was a mistake.
No questions.
No questions.
Mr. Burton?
One question, what happened to your accountant? I see you don't have one for this year,
I'm glad you asked that question. As a part of being a team player, we gave up the CFO to meet the budget. We gave up the accounting position, and we didn't want to do that. But in order to meet this, tax objective, we had to give up a position that we've held onto for a while. So I would ask that this body remember the question, and if the need resurfaces for us to hire an accountant, council will allow us to put that position back. But we took it out.
So who's handling that function now? Is it just being distributed?
That was an open spot, and what we were looking at was whether or not we were going to have a need to adjust, job functions and spread the work around. And to date, we haven't felt that we had enough work to justify bringing in someone to do that accounting function, so we didn't do it. And so, in trying to make the numbers, we said it's time to make the sacrifice. And if the need surfaces, we just have to come back and ask, for a special dispensation.
Okay.
No question. You have two assistant controllers. Wondering what the individuals' ranking of duties that they perform.
One is focused on cash reconciliations, grants, grants administration, and the system, has some responsibility for the system. The other one is really the general ledger person. It has a lot to do with things like this budget and all of the processes that go in with that. That person is also the admin specialist around the training and requisition administration and all.
And then I noticed that the accountant that was vacant, that no longer is there, and the accountant assistant salaries are very similar. Were those roles similar as well?
No, the accountant job is a higher level role. But what happens is titles are somewhat restricted by civil service. So those are the titles we have on the books. And so you'll find that there are differences and nuances, but if you've been here for a while too, the accounting position was at the entry level of that grade. The other person's been there now for two plus years, so there've been at least 2 steps that person's received during that time.
No further questions.
Okay, tax collector.
Tax collector, salary and wages went up 2.78%, or a little under $9,000. Other expenses went up $705. I don't think I need to say much more about that, other than the fact that over the last number of years, the tax collector has been a major player in helping us regenerate, the surplus. By getting the tax collection rate up to significantly high levels and reducing the number of liens that the city retains and the number of city-owned properties that end up going out to auction as opposed to PWA, generated properties that go out to auction.
Councilwoman Tolliver?
Do you have a lot of PMUA properties going out to auction because people don't want to pay their garbage and then it results in a
I don't. I can't answer for you why people don't pay, but there are more PMUA liens that get sold every year than the
So
city.
they get a fair opportunity, which I'm sure they do, to catch up with your PMUA bill.
Yeah, there are multiple mailings that go out, which include the warnings, and it's in the newspapers at least twice. So yes, we give people adequate warnings, but I can't tell you why some people will let a house go up for potential foreclosure for $50 or $100.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just wondering, did you see potentially a decrease from 16, 17?
We have seen decreases in the number of PMUA properties that go to lien sale.
Okay.
There's been a decrease, but relative to the city, it's a much bigger number.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hockaday?
Talk about some of the ways that you increase the percentage of collection. What strategies do you use?
One of the things that continues to be done is delinquent notices to households. We've increased the number of mailings that we send out, trying to keep people aware and alert that they run the risk of becoming delinquent. And so those reminders seem to work. We've also for those property owners that have more serious problems, we've had a number of sessions that we've conducted to give them alternatives and have them at least engage in conversations with organizations that might be able to help them. But the biggest thing is conveying information and trying to let people know what's at risk if they don't pay their taxes.
Is there a statutory amount of notices that you're supposed to send before they're going to?
Before a tax sale, yes, there is definitely a statutory requirement. There's got to be at least 2 publications and 2 delinquent notices. We're doing more than that.
How much?
We're doing at least 6 notices.
6. Nothing further.
Mr. Good? Mr. Storch?
No question.
Ms. Williams?
No questions.
Seaback?
I do have one question, forgive me, I had to step out before, about the surplus that you generate. So every year, when you generate it, you program it into the next year's budget? Is that how it works?
Put it this way, that's what we've been doing, yes.
Okay. So if you fall short, then do you either have to raise taxes or you have to find that missing money somehow?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Could you ever hold the money without spending it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, if we were in a better state, I'd love to see that we had $15 or $20 million in surplus. That's just sitting in the bank.
Yeah.
It's just a harder thing to accomplish.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Elamine?
No questions.
Mr. Burton?
No questions.
No questions. No questions.
Next, let's go to the tax assessor.
Tax assessor is one of the individuals working with me on the census, and that came up because that's the person that's ultimately responsible for the property database, in the city. And one of the key things that this organization does is deal with lots of appeals. We've been averaging well in excess of 400 appeals a year. And at some point, hopefully that will go down, and it's a group that's done a good job of keeping our database accurate, and the group is well respected throughout the state. So it's a good team, that had basically just the statutory increases on the salary and wage line. And you'll see an increase in other expenses because we have to go out and pay for appraisals for tax appeals.
Councilwoman Collins?
One question, when we're gonna do another census?
2020.
2020, okay.
Councilwoman, you finished? Councilman Hockday?
No questions for the tax assessor.
Councilman Good?
No questions.
Councilman Rebecca Williams?
Let's see. Actually, I think you just answered my question. Thank you.
No questions.
Mr. Elamine?
No questions.
Burton?
Just a general question. Are there instances where people will appeal their taxes and it could actually go up instead of coming down as a result of their appeal?
Not through an appeal. There are other ways for that to happen, but it's not an appeal. No, the appeal, you either win or you lose. Or you can come in somewhat in between. I mean, there are lots of negotiations that take place. So there are settlements. And you'd like to have all of that worked out as opposed to letting someone else, make that decision for you.
Question, your tax appeals, you mentioned that you have to do appraisals, but that's not on each application.
No, that's not on
It's
each,
just on-
it's on the big ones.
Yes, okay,
It's more the industrial/commercial properties
yes.
where you're looking at values in the hundreds, thousands or tens of millions, and and there will be major changes.
No question.
Next, information technology.
I covered a number of the objectives that the group has in terms of trying to deliver more technology to the city, and there are even broader visions. I think the most current thing that I will make this body aware of is that we're evaluating our wireless options, and expect to be to council shortly with a proposal that will save us, on a monthly basis in terms of wireless services. Because we do have a lot of units out there. But in terms of salary and wages, you're looking at a 6.2% increase in salary and wages. And other expenses went up 2.62%. The key thing I would note for you there is that within IT, that's where we manage a lot of the maintenance agreements, whether it's IQM2, which is the software we use for the council meetings, and all of the other software agreements and maintenance for virtualization. So they're the entity that is at the forefront of not just overseeing the technology, but processing whatever bills we have associated with the services that we've got in place.
Councilwoman Tolliver?
Yes, I do have a question. The hardware and software maintenance, I'm assuming we have a contract. Do that go up every year?
Most of them do not. There are a few that may expire and go up. I would say that one of the things you'd see more than that is that we are increasing in the number of contracts and or the type of software that we may be purchasing and then have a need to support.
Okay, I have one more question. The bilingual headsets that we use during the council meetings, how many of those did we purchase and how many are being utilized? And how much did they cost, if you know?
I don't remember. I'd have to run a report to tell you, but it's several $1,000s, and it was the part of the OE expense, for the council last year when we bought those units. But there were several $1,000s that we paid for them, and I believe we got 6 units.
In total?
That's correct.
I thought we had more than that.
It could be, but I'll get that and I'll give you. I'll let council know how many units we
I
end up
don't
getting.
see them being used unless I'm incorrect. So, do you see any being used during the council meetings?
It's been used less frequently than we would like, but we don't control who comes to council meetings.
Yeah, I understand.
And remember, there were a number of organizations or individuals that came before council and said we should provide that level of service. And I think that wasn't an unreasonable request. We responded to it. We are prepared at every council meeting to deliver, translation services.
And I'm not in questioning that we shouldn't have. What I'm questioning is that I don't see them being used. That's what I'm saying. So do we have to maintain them? Anything has to be done to maintain them, or they're just sitting there to be ready to be used?
Waiting to be used.
Thank you.
Councilman Hopperday?
What is the process that would decide what software to use, what hardware to use, how often to upgrade it? Is there a committee established that decides that, or is it just the IT director?
No, it is not just the IT director. The way that you get software accepted and installed reasonably well is to have the buy-in from the end-user community. So we want that organization that has a business requirement to be intimately involved in the process. And they need to sign off that it works the way they want it to. Now, that's easier said than done depending on the initiative, but one of the things that we've been working on is making sure that, you know, the leadership understands how technology works, and it takes a commitment from them to deliver the right tools. And so that's why we try to, you know, get accountability from the top, and we spend a fair amount of time trying to get people to understand what's available out there in the way of technology.
Mr. Good?
Mr. West, since this equipment it does exist now, how does one know if they come to a meeting that this is available to them?
Well, we certainly made, there was an announcement made by the council, and I think,
I mean, if someone's in the audience.
Oh.
how-
there is an observer watching,
Okay,
you know, in the back of the room.
okay, the jump, what's his name?
Yes.
Winston.
He is watching and waiting to see if there's a need.
That helps. It does.
And then he will go up to them and ask if they would like him to
And
translate.
of course, he would say it in
That is correct.
Spanish, okay.
And then he puts the headset on, and they get one, and he translates for them.
Okay, and you said something about wireless savings.
Yes,
Earlier.
cell phones.
Cell phones, okay, right, but how much are the savings monthly? Considerable amount?
$1,800 a month,
Okay,
you know, is what I'm looking at right this minute. You know, and maybe more, because that's not factoring in the fact that the deal we're looking at has unlimited voice, text, and data, you know, as opposed to buying a bundle and having to manage that bundle. You know, so there's that element as well. And I can also tell you that there are more international countries that are part of the base plan. So when we have a need to provide international services for someone, we don't come in that cost, depending on the country.
Mr. Storch?
When do you anticipate that we'll have that contract resolved to save them money?
It may be resolved now, but when I see a resolution that's correct, you know, so the target is to have it ready for the May agenda.
Oh, thank you. And is it built into the budget right now? Because I'm looking at the telecom.
No, this is hot off the press.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Seaback?
Yeah, so my question was with professional training and staff development. Now, you guys generally spend what you get. In fact, last year you went over. So I was kind of curious at what opportunities they get in this department.
We've purchased, you know, online training modules. A whole host of them were at the government MIS convention in Somerset last week. The thing I would tell you is that the fundamental philosophy here in the city is to equip them with the tools they need to do the jobs. So we would pay more for training. You know, we just have to have, you know, find those courses that people need. You know, in the interim, what we've done is we've migrated some of the things like the servers, you know, are now in the cloud. We virtualized that, except for in the police world. Police, we, you know, have on site. So we've got two different architectures in play, but we can always use more technical talent.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes, with respect to the software, IT or software programs, purchasing of new software systems, is that under the hardware and maintenance line, or is there a separate, or is that someplace else?
Depends. It can be in there. A lot of the so-called minor purchases would certainly be, you know, within the confines of IT. So, you know, a few new computers, a new application package or two, you know, we would do that. A bigger thing might come out of there or might not, depending on how big and expansive it would be.
And this line item would service 2 out of the 3 departments.
No, it will serve all departments, except there's one that has, a little more capability and some budget. But you have to understand that the city, so to speak, paid for all of the technology changes that we've been able to put in place, in public safety. We work very closely to make sure that we adequately budgeted, the money for the tools that we need.
Okay. With respect to the software, you mentioned that a lot of it is driven by the director's need or request. And my question is, do the end users also drive the need or request for specific types of software programs that they would like to have?
Every now and then, that's rare. That we have the end users at that level making the request. Again, but we don't. If it's going to come from there, that's good. We would love for somebody to say that they need a tool to do X, Y, Z. We did have that happen in engineering. So we gave engineering a tool that came at the right price that will help them manage street openings and get fee payments from PSE&G and New Jersey American Water and them. It can come in electronically. So we put that in place, and that was a request that came from the end user saying that help was something they needed.
Thank you. Mr. Burton?
No question.
No questions. I just have one question. For telecommunications, what happened between 2015 and 2016 that drove up that line item? It seemed like, and then since then, that's been like...
We bought a new phone system. We bought a new phone system which has a lease agreement. So you're looking at $100,000, I think, that we pay a year, plus or minus, for the phone systems that we have throughout the city.
And is that the same line item where you expect the Wi-Fi savings to hit?
No, there's a whole other budget for that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, next.
Media. Media as a group, we've got an individual standing behind me, so I have to watch what I say. But media is going to be doing a lot more with the public and putting new video items up on PCTV. We have been in the throes of bringing about significant technical enhancements to PCTV. We also are moving forward with adding fixed cameras in the courthouse, and with the intent being to build a control office and move to live broadcasting of council meetings. So we'll be buying the cameras to do that. We have some other equipment, and this is all tied to, for those of you that remember, a grant that we got from Comcast 2 years ago with the voting of the franchise agreement or the new franchise agreement with Comcast. So we're getting closer to that eventuality, and I mean there's a lot more to be done because we also have to integrate the IQM2 platform so that people can see the documents and everything else while the meeting's going on, and get the voice, but we're getting close. So there's a whole lot going on there, and keep your eyes on them because I expect that they'll be far more visible going forward. Salary and wages, would show that they are up significantly in 28%, but it had to do with the fact that there was at least one vacancy for a while last year that has now been filled, and then we had a a second late hire. So just because we didn't have full staffing throughout 2017, now we are fully staffed in 2018. And other than the statutory increases, that's the bulk of the salary money. And in terms of OE, there's about $7,000 in additional money that we're looking to put in place for that group.
Councilwoman Tolliver,
No question.
Carpenter,
Any questions for me?
good. Storch,
No question.
Williams,
I just had one question about the video equipment purchase. It looks like there was money appropriated and spent back in 2015, $6,400, but there was none appropriated last year or the year before, and none being asked for this year.
I got to know there's a grant account,
Okay.
that we're really hitting for
So
the
that's-
technology
Okay,
rollout.
great, thank you.
No questions.
Mr. Oming,
Yes, with respect to outside consultants, why the variable ask and expenses over the course of the years?
We are fully staffed now. So if I can be literal, the person standing behind me is no longer an outside consultant.
So in 2000 is just contingency?
I'd have to look at the hire date. We have carryovers on occasion. 4th of July would be, for instance. We will engage, contractors to come in and help us do public events. That's the only other time that we do that.
Good.
Ms. Burton,
No question.
I'm curious, what's PCTV?
Plainfield Cable TV Network. So if you go to channel 96
Okay.
on Comcast, I don't remember what, I think it's 36 on,
36 on Verizon.
I think it's 36 on Verizon. You can watch Plainfield.
DirecTV, we don't get it.
34.
34.
34.
Thank you.
And so that's what it is, and you'll see lots of ads if you want to look at the council meetings and see what's what, and other, there's a TV listing that comes out that shows what's running when, and it's online. Been in place for about 15 years.
Okay, next.
Community and Relations and Social Services. For those of you with a longer history, you may know of it as Plainfield Action Services. And this is our primary social services group. And here the focus is on providing a variety of support services to the community. We have a client base that's in excess of 4,000 people. And we do things from bootstrap programs, trying to get people to get better prepared for jobs. We provide food, housing support. We're a big reference agency to the variety of other service agencies throughout the city. Though we have the ability to provide some level of support when it comes to utility bills, rent, you get to come once. We do a lot around National Night Out, the holiday season in this group. Every Friday there's food given out. There are annual clothing programs. And this is a community services block grant supported program. They are looking to continue to make a change. They are also a part of the technology initiative around training. because this is the group where we're doing a lot of work with the county, for workforce investment and trying to get young adults better prepared to go out and compete. So they are a leading edge organization when it comes to trying to work with a lot of the youngsters and others who are in need. And again, the key thing is they're in a position to help facilitate access to services more than anything else. We've got at least we've got one social worker and one master's in social work in that group, because it does require that you have those skill sets in the two key jobs. In terms of salaries, they're up a little over 16%, and that's not due to anything other than statutory increases and the timing. We did have a retirement last year, so there was less money spent, as a result of that. And now we are fully staffed and expect that to be the case for all of 2018. In terms of other expenses, there's a $6,000 increase in other expenses. And a lot of that I will attribute to, and it's in program and community initiatives. We get very involved during the holiday season in providing things. And last year we had the benefit of Toys R Us, who contributed hundreds of toys. I don't think we're going to have that. In fact, I know we're not going to have that luxury this year. So the city will have to take on a role, with regard to that. We have found that kids like to see toys, not books, at Christmas time. So, and we may do other initiatives, because we get involved in health fairs and other things in that group, just to make sure that the public is aware that we exist and that there are services available to them should they be in need.
Councilwoman Tolliver?
Yes, you have here in your goals, adding to agencies in Union County for goals. Do you know what agencies that will be?
No, because we haven't identified them yet.
So you're looking for 2 agencies?
That is correct, we are looking.
Thank you.
Councilman Hockaday?
I saw an acronym in here, I didn't know what it was. There's a lot in here. Roma?
Oh, that has to do with goals. We are mandated by CSBG to provide indicators of performance. And so, don't ask me, I can't tell you what Roma, but Roma are all of the metrics that we have to report to CSBG on the number of people we're serving, the level of progress we're making in terms of those objectives, and it's the way we get measured by DCA.
Nothing further.
Mr. Good?
Mr. Westside, the retired federal assistant has been replaced by someone else?
That is correct.
So, and I heard you say you're fully staffed in that.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Storch?
Yeah, question about the staffing pattern. You have a full-time director with 2 titles that seem like they're direct human service positions, and then you have a principal clerk typist and a clerk. So just the job titles, it sounds like we're not spending a lot of our resources on services, but what exactly does the clerk and the clerk typist do?
The clerk typist is first off the receptionist, so that's the check-in point when they come in. They've got to register. She's got a lot of the requirements for logging them in, knowing what they're there for, facilitating them going to the proper person for whatever their need is. That person is also responsible for answering telephones there. The other individual is far more involved in the metrics and that sort of thing. The Roma measurements, communications with DCA. So she's far more involved in the programmatic side of things.
This one makes no sense to me. the staffing pattern. Can we get copies of those two job descriptions? Are these like boilerplate job descriptions, or are they specific to this department in the office?
They're boilerplate job descriptions, civil service job descriptions.
So is there anything that describes what those two?
If council would like to see the duties and responsibilities of the two clerical positions,
Yes.
I will have that put together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just concerned that, I want to make sure that whatever our budget is for this, that we're really maximizing the resources for people in need, because there's a lot of need out there. And the less we have people sitting at desks doing paperwork, the better we are.
Well, you should know that we've also been very good at getting money from the county for services. So we've been raising the amount of money that we contribute to housing, utilities, transportation support, clothing. If you have an interview tomorrow and you have nothing to wear, we can make that happen. So we've been getting more money around actual programmatic and or support measures, but I'll
Non-salary.
get that.
Non-salary. But it looks like the salary, the grant towards salaries is pretty much level. Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
I see that you're putting in a part-time animal control officer.
To that budget?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong one. No questions for this, I'm sorry, I'm moving ahead. Go ahead.
No questions.
That'll be, just to follow up, the principal clerk versus the clerk one, it looks over here, the distinction is also bilingual. Is there a requirement?
In this case, they're both bilingual.
Okay. Maintenance office equipment, new, $1,500. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's new funding after all these years.
Yeah, no, and we have some additional equipment that we're using to tie into the state system, for reporting goals and objectives and that sort of thing, and we were able to get it. So we've got that as a new item. We haven't really had any changes around the use of technology in that group historically. Now with some staffing changes and everything else, we're doing more with it.
Thank you. Mr. Burton? No questions.
No questions?
No questions.
All right, let's move. Division of Health.
Let me start by saying council recently approved a request for authorization to apply and accept a grant for lead-based services. So we were awarded that grant. The Health Division is now the lead agency for lead, throughout the county. So that grant is in the amount of $499,000. So what you won't see in your package is we have now brought on board 3 new registered environmental health specialists and a program leader who is going to oversee the initiatives around the rest of the county. But they're fully funded by the grant, so it's not budget impacting. I just wanted to make that declaration so that there are no surprises in terms of that particular group. And we are in the throes of getting ready to reapply for the second half of that grant, which is another $499,000. So, that these folks can stay gainfully employed.
Councilwoman Tyler?
1 second. Do you know how often you're inspecting fast food?
I can't tell you how often. We're inspecting at least one. Annually, we must complete all of them. We only make return appearances if there are complaints or other initiatives that come to our attention that cause us to have to go there. But we must annually inspect every food establishment.
Because I see some fast food places that, some places you go to, their hair is not exposed, and some places you go to, their hair is moving. Just because your hair is in a ponytail don't mean that. It's still loosely going from side to side. So I think they need to, and I'm not saying they're not inspecting, but I think we need to follow up, because I think when there's a lack of inspecting, that people do what they want to do and they are handling food. Another thing, I see $60,000. You're asking for flu shots, you're anticipating, or am I looking wrong?
That should have gone away. We did provide over 400 flu shots to the community last year. And we tried to get it, for free. You know,
Yeah, it says requesting 60,000. Last year it was 7,000. I'm just asking.
it's 7,500.
Okay, the administration's recommend. I'm looking at what was
Yeah,
requested.
well, we said there are enough avenues to get flu shots for free. And I questioned whether or not that was the role that we wanted to be in. I didn't think it was where the city needed to spend its money, you know, which is why the request from the division was turned down and we came forward with 7,500. We think that we have been very effective in providing the 400 plus flu shots. You know, part of the thinking here was to do more even on the school level, and I just said, let's back off. That's a lot of money, and we had to limit how much we could commit to public health.
All right. Next question. This is just something I'm seeing, and I know a lot of people may disagree with me. However, it doesn't matter. I notice a lot of, and I don't know, to me it's a health hazard. People walk around with their pants hanging way, way down. I know undergarments are meant to be retained by outer garments. You know, they're supposed to be inside and not outside. I don't know how the health department feels about it. Some garments, it's not just the waistband anymore. It's the pants are all the way down to their knees. And I'm just wondering, have the health department looked at that as a potential problem with people passing diseases, communicable diseases, with their pants down that far. So that's something I would like to to be passed on to the health department for consideration.
I think that would require ordinance changes, because now you're talking about a dress code here in the city of Plainfield.
I'm talking about health, I'm considering it a health, not just a dress code.
Now, what we can do is look and see whether or not
What ordinance we have that relates to that.
Well, I was going to say something different. We have a person that focuses on communicable diseases. So we can look and see whether or not any of the communicable diseases look like they can be a result of that kind of behavior, and then we can see if there's a need. But so let me look at the statistics. But that wasn't an indicator in the past, but we'll revisit it and see what it
Things change
says.
from day to day.
Right.
Different things come out. You know, what medically wasn't there last week could medically be there this year. And people do go in restaurants. And my question, and the reason for saying that is people go into restaurants and sit down behind each other. I mean, you know, they say you can touch a doorknob, a common cold, and you don't know what you can catch from sitting behind somebody. So to me, it could potentially be a health hazard, and I don't want it to be disregarded, or, you know, like I said, it doesn't matter what others
We'll look at communicable
think, but
diseases and see
I
if
think
we've
it's
got key
something that
indicators.
we should look into. That's all.
Mr. Hockaday?
I can't recall the question. Well, answer on that.
Mr. Good?
None.
Yes, on outside consulting services, we're looking at $72,000 change budget, and that's about twice as much as we spent last year. So can you explain what that's going
Yes.
for?
Last year represented less than a full year. You know, we replaced a retired health educator position with a contractor to provide our health education and nutrition services. And when I say, and I'm talking about for the general public, so all the, you know, we're using a consulting organization to provide that. So, you know, that contract is $60,000 a year.
Who's the contractor?
It's CHA Services.
And one other question, the public health agreement, I'm not sure what.
I will explain that for you. That's an agreement that we entered into with the Plainfield Neighborhood Health Services Corporation, you know, to provide medical, and when I say medical, I'm talking about a doctor, and some nursing services, you know, for the programs being sponsored by or in collaboration with the health department and the Plainfield Health Center. You know,
So last year we budgeted 15,000, only 4,700 was spent, and now we're looking at
it
$20,000.
is now, but that's because it's a fairly new agreement. It was approved by council a couple, 2 months ago, 3 months, 3 months ago. So we expect to do more with it. And there's a doctor on site every week.
How much have we spent? Do you
And
know how much we
staff.
spent year to date?
No, I'd have to run a report, but
Did
it's
you-
about $2,000 a month, a little over $2,000 a month.
And that's for a doctor to be,
Doctor and there are nursing services, they can come with that too if we were going to do a special vaccine program or anything else. We need that, but the doctor is there, a number of hours every week.
where is that?
The doctor comes to the health center. To the health office in the annex.
Oh, and also working with people from Plainfield Action Services?
It could be from Plainfield Action Service, but people that come to the health office, or they go down to WIC, because we've got examination rooms in WIC.
So we're duplicating services from,
We're not duplicating. We're just meeting the people where they are, and the health center is doing that. And then if they want to go to the health center for permanent services, that's why I use the word collaborative. The intent is, or it provides an opportunity for the health center to get new clients. We don't want the client. This is a health center doctor, health center nurses helping us provide services to the community.
they need the business. Why aren't they paying for it? I suppose, as opposed to us paying for it. Anyway, you don't have to answer that question, but that's a big question in my mind, but that's it.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. I was looking at the wrong page with the animal control officer, 14 hours per week. Is that a few hours a day, or is it like 2 days?
The thought was a few hours a day, with the vision or the intent being to provide enforcement around licensing. So that's the objective.
Okay.
But now the laws are changing too, so we are going to have to look at the state SPCA is going away.
Right.
And the municipalities and the counties are picking up responsibility for animal cruelty investigations. So we are going to have to do more with our service provider, our animal control services vendor, to provide municipal humane law enforcement for animals. So that is something that we are in the throes of trying to figure out how to do that. These people can also carry arms if need be, so, we're involved in discussions with the county prosecutor as well as, our director of public affairs and safety to figure out what we need to do.
Okay, thank you.
Seaback?
All right, 2 questions. With the public health agreement, I'm curious, how many patients do you think they see on average, like a year?
I'd have to look because this hasn't been done in years now. But I can tell you that if it's a clinic, let's just take the vaccines. We get over 400 flu vaccines. We have people show up WIC every day. And so part of the thing is you've got babies coming in there, and you want to detect low birth weight or other things. We've got to worry about lead-based services. That doctor can help us, do those kinds of things. But no, I don't have any statistics at this point to tell you that in the first couple of months, here's what we've been able to achieve.
In terms of operation though, are they open, is it Monday to Friday, 9 to 5? Is
9
it?
to 5. This is City Hall.
Yeah.
So it's City Hall hours when we do this. If they need something outside of that, the intent would be that they go to the health center
The one on Rock?
on Rock Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Elamine?
Yes, the testing line, is that tied to staffing or increase in
Oh,
service?
no,
or
that
something?
testing is, we mail lots of things out, particularly associated with communicable diseases. So we've got to send things out to labs for validation as to what it might be.
Thank you.
Mr. Burton?
No question.
No question. I had a question about, you mentioned you received the LEAD grant.
Which grant?
LEAD, is that what you called it?
Lead.
Lead, for $499,000?
Yes.
And then you mentioned you hired 3 health specialists and 1 program leader?
Yes.
That their salaries cover
That is
that
correct.
grant amount?
They are in the grant in its entirety.
And so the next $499 would just cover that work to continue?
That is correct.
How much would you say from 0 to 100% your capability to get that second $499?
If I could speak for the individual who brought it forward, he is better than 90% optimistic that we are going to. The city of Plainfield used to have it years ago as the lead agency. And then for whatever reason, it went away and became fully run by Muhlenberg/JFK. Now Muhlenberg JFK is a subcontractor to the city.
My question was about the lead grant as well. So those individuals are housed in City Hall?
Yes,
They have all
they
this-
are housed across the street. So the furniture that they need to sit at is being paid for by the grant.
Is it city-owned furniture? or-
This will be city-owned, we have to buy it, it's being purchased, but it's being paid for by the grant.
Okay. So it covers salaries plus more.
That's correct. That's correct.
And as far as that budget, it's pretty much, you take that up with who gives you the grant.
That's correct.
Council President, just real quickly, Mr. West, do you know if that budget for the flu shots was the South Second Street included in that because they wanted to receive them?
No. Isn't. We go to wherever the need is, so we've done it here, meaning the annex, in this building, we've gone to several churches, but these are scheduled events that we post out there that we're going to do it. There's a thought about doing more, at all the preschools and that sort of thing, and we may do that. It really depends on the funding, and now that we certainly have an agreement for doctor services now, we can go lots of places.
Okay, Rick? That's it.
Well, I didn't say a whole lot about WIC because you'll see in the budget that it's grant funded. You know, the WIC, we've got 4,000 clients, well, 4,000 clients now, which is down from a number that it used to be. And our major mandate with the state and federal governments is they want WIC to expand. You know, they don't think we're reaching all of the people that are eligible for that kind of assistance. The problem we have is that a fairly large number of people in the community don't want to come out at this point in time. You know, they'd rather leave their check across the street than come get it. You know, because there's a major concern in town, you know, that they will be deported. You know, I know that there was a raid in close proximity this week, you know, that will raise the alert even more, but people are fearful. So, you know, we're doing outreach services. We do hold sessions at night, and on the weekends we will go to other places, you know, to see the clients, but outreach is a major initiative.
Councilwoman Tolliver, any questions?
Just one, the training for the staff, who trains them?
A lot of that
Keep them
training is done by
updated.
the state. By the state.
Okay, so they do offer it at different times during the programs and classes and things.
And it's mandatory.
All right, thank you. That's it.
Mr. Parker there?
Just that I'd like to see more advertising, if we are missing some people, residents that are eligible for these services. I'd like to see us actually reach those people.
Mr. Good?
Mr. West, so they don't have the proper documents, do you turn people away or they service? They receive the service?
Put it this way, the kids aren't turned away.
Okay.
You know, so, and this is about the kids up to the age of 5.
So
So
if they don't have the proper documents, does that put them in line for possible deportation?
I think the best way to answer that is to say that we have a fairly large population that do not have proper documentation.
I guess I should ask, with the WIC department, blow the whistle.
No,
They would, okay.
no.
That's
No, even here, remember, you come here, you can get a municipal ID card. So no, we don't even keep the information. We get rid of it, you know, shortly after the municipal ID card is created.
That's probably definitely why the numbers are down, because people feel as though if they come for the services that this could happen to them. So maybe.
Well, we have a rumor that we have to defeat. I think it was last year, there was a major pickup at Twin Cities. You know, so there's no telling, you know, the rhyme or reason or rationale for, you know, action being taken. You know, people just know it's being done.
Thank you.
Councilman Storch?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm concerned about is looking at the staffing pattern. Once again, if you add up all of the clerk typist positions, it's roughly, almost exactly, if you add the fringe in, it's nearly exactly half of the budget. So it's a $500,000 budget for personnel. $250,000 is spent on titles that are called clerk. So,
Those
same
clerks,
question as I had before.
remember, those clerks are counselors. Some of them are peer counselors, you know, but they're a clerk one position. You know,
Is the only job titles we could come up with?
we're dealing with what we have right now. You know, staff would love for us to have other job titles, particularly at higher level grades. You know, but clerk one is the biggest job title that we have, you know, in the clerical ranks, whether it's municipal court, WIC, you know, it's the entry level job title.
So how can you just assure the council that these people are doing other, basically helping people directly? Could you get the the duties and responsibilities? I mean, is it?
Sure, I get that, but see, I think one day, you know, I would certainly welcome anyone to walk over to it during the day, and or see me, and I'll take you on a tour there, you know, and you will see, you know, all of those folks engaged in providing what I'll classify as case management services. You know, there's a computer there. You know, they're working with this individual on, you know, their meal vouchers and or stamps, and that child is getting assessed for their weight and their healthiness. We've got dietitians. See, the other folks that we have there are primarily dietitians. The two more senior people are dietitians. Now, we do have a lactation peer counselor and a lactation consultant, you know, on staff.
I see it.
You know, those are the more sophisticated titles.
So because I have a full-time job and I probably can't get there for a daytime tour, is there documentation that you...
All right, no, I will have them do something better, because you're not going to be pleased with the civil service job titles. You know, so I'm going to have them put together the duties and responsibilities of the clerical roles, because the civil service job title is civil service job title. It's been untouched by us.
Civil service. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Williams?
No questions.
Mr.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions. No questions.
Okay, well, thank you. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the city of Plainfield. A total of 60 minutes has been allocated to all public comments presented. If you wish to be heard, give your name and address to the clerk for the record. The amount of time for discussion of any single subject, as well as the amount of time for single speakers allowed, will be 5 minutes. The floor is now open. Seeing none for the floor, may I have a motion to close public comment? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
CBAC, thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing your report. I know when you guys meet. And Mr. West, thank you for your time.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mr. West.